What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Eric Wilson. Today, joined with my co-host, Colin Alcaves. Today, we've got some things to discuss. We're a little behind about talking about Ryan Lindgren being ruled out for a couple of weeks at least, but we're here to talk about it anyway. Not really doing a breaking news report, but a little bit of a discussion because with Lindgren out of the lineup, that kind of leaves Adam Fox without a defensive partner. So we're here to chat about who should start the season playing with Adam Fox on that top pairing. There's a couple of options to go over. I know, Colin, me and you have not even talked about our own opinions on this matter yet. So it'll be interesting to hear how each other feels and maybe debate or agree depending on how those feelings lie. I know if Anthony were here, he would be advocating for elite prospect Victor Mancini, but he's not here. So we're going to just move on from that. But we're going to get right into it. Before we do, make sure you guys like, subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss notification. Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below because there are a few options on the table here that we might not cover. So please let us know how you guys feel about this debate. Lastly, be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers. But before we get into it, Colin, how are you doing today, my friend? And who do you think should be playing with Adam Fox while Lindgren is out?
I'm good. Obviously, it stinks talking about injury and replacement. You never want to see a guy like Lindgren go down. So it obviously stinks losing him. But there are some exciting young options that I'm looking forward to talking about here. I don't know if you have a particular one in mind that you want to start with, because there are a couple options. But
yeah, I mean, I guess we are in a little bit of a hurry. to all the fans watching that don't know the outside context of this recording, there is very much a timer on this episode because me and Colin both have places to be. So I didn't even address the fact that we're hoping Ryan Lindgren gets well soon. I just kind of said he's out. Let's move on. Who's filling in? But I do want to take that moment to address that, and I do hope he does well and recovers quickly because he is one of our better defenders. So it is going to be a shame to see him out of the lineup, especially right at the start of the season. Lindgren is the type of player who is very injury prone, but, to see it happen in preseason this early on, it is a shame to see. So prayers to Ryan Lindgren. Hope he comes back better than ever and has a phenomenal season. But first player I want to talk about who could potentially step in, I think it's the most realistic option. It's the man that's on the graphic right now. It's K'Andre Miller. Right. The Rangers have a few very good defensemen on their team. They also have a few very not good defensemen on their team. I do not want to see Jacob Trouba step up. I don't know if Zach Jones is good enough yet to step in. And I don't know if a prospect like Mancini is ready to step into a top defensive pairing role. I think, to me, in a perfect world, K'Andre Miller would step up, play with Adam Fox. They're both kind of leaning towards offensive defensemen, but at the same time, I think Miller does possess some very good defensive skill sets that he could use in this situation. So to me, Miller would move up, Jones would move up, and then maybe you have a prospect or a guy like Chad Ruedel step in on that bottom pairing. That's the way I look at it. I think Miller's very talented. There are some games, I will admit, where he drives me insane. I'm sure most of you watching agree. But there have also been some games where I look very impressed by Miller. I feel like the comment sections and most of our videos are extremely divided on Miller. A lot of fans love him. A lot of fans hate him. To me, it depends on the day, depending on how he plays. I'll never fully choose a side. But he's a very inconsistent player. But I think if he plays with a guy like Fox, it could work out well. I think it's the safest option and possibly the best option. But let me know how you feel about K'Andre Miller possibly playing with Adam Fox to start the season.
I mean, if you're looking at a guy who's naturally a left-handed defenseman who's going to fill into that role, probably the best, it would be a guy like K'Andre Miller. He had 8 goals and 22 assists last year in 80 games played. He's 6'5", 216, so he's big. And that's going to play a big role into why I think he should be the guy over a guy like Zach Jones, who is a little bit smaller, and a guy like Adam Fox is already kind of small, even though he plays it well. I don't know that I want to have two kind of short guys on the same line. I'd rather have a towering guy with him. That's kind of what Ryan Lindgren is for that line. Not really towering. He's 6 foot, but still every inch counts. So the bigger you can get, especially on those upper lines, playing top tier talent around the league, I think that's super important. And then I also like how you mentioned that they're both a little bit more towards offense with Keandre Miller possessing some good defensive qualities. I think that playing with Fox could help him on both sides of the puck. I think that it'll help, like Fox can teach him and kind of work with him on how to carry the puck and when to move it and things like that, and maybe how to view the ice a little bit better as opposed to how Jacob Trouba views it. And then also I think that he might be a little bit more vocal in his own zone and give off some good tendencies for Keandre Miller to pick up, and then maybe take those to whoever he goes and plays with next. Just because he knows that Fox is kind of the captain of the defense. So I think that there's a lot that he can learn. Obviously, Fox is top 5, if not top 3 D-man in the league currently. So, putting any young talent with him is always a good idea. And Keandre Miller might just be the perfect fit on that line for the time being.
I mean, that's the way I feel. I'm kind of happy that we agree with that. I'm really hoping that's the option that Peter Laviolette does end up going with. But, I mean, it would make too short of an episode if we both just said, yep, Keandre Miller, and we moved on. So I do want to touch upon at least a few positives from the other candidates involved. I think the only other real true candidate that I personally see at this point is Zach Jones, right? He's the type of guy who's been trying to fight his way into this lineup for a very, very long time. He's very young at just, what is he, 23 years old? He's the same age as me, a year younger than you. And he's very, very talented. I fully believe that he is going to enter this lineup this year, especially with the departure of Eric Gustafsson. There is room for him. But now with this injury to Ryan Lindgren, there's room for 2 defensemen. So someone is going to have to step up. If it isn't Keandre Miller, hypothetically, it could be cool. I'm not going to say it's a good idea, but it would be cool to see Zach Jones move up right away. Obviously, I think Keandre Miller is better skilled and probably a better fit to fill that role for these first couple of weeks. But if you talk about a guy like Zach Jones, who does have NHL experience, right? He played a decent chunk of the season last year, but might not be perfect just yet. It could be kind of helpful to his situation to play with a top defender like Adam Fox. I think Jones and Fox do have kind of similar play styles in a way. Jones is a little bit more defensive oriented than Fox, in my opinion, but they're both smaller size. They both know how to put up points, and they both have some pretty solid defensive skills. So if there's anyone that Jones should really be taken under the wing by, I think it would be Adam Fox. I feel like the 2 of them combined might be a little bit of a defensive nightmare, and there might be a handful of goals against. But, just for the sake of Jones's development, I don't think playing with Fox would necessarily be a bad thing, because Fox takes what Jones wants to be and does it at a superstar level. And I think it could be a very good team building exercise, we'll call it, to have the 2 playing together. Jones can learn from Fox, and it is only for a couple weeks. We're not talking like this is going to be the defensive pairings for the entire season. It's only until Lindgren comes back, which then allows Keandre Miller to continue to develop chemistry with Jacob Trouba or Braden Schneider or whoever it is that he's playing with these first couple of weeks, because Keandre Miller is good. I like him. Jacob Trouba, not so much. Miller is going to need even more of an adjustment period this season to deal with Trouba if he's playing with him, or start to build chemistry with Schneider. So those are the pros that I see in a potential Jones first D pairing, but I don't know if there's anything else you want to add or just tear that idea apart. I'm curious to hear it, because I just spoke about positives, but I don't even think I convinced myself right there.
I think you make some good points. I think that if you look at what Fox does, it is everything that Zach Jones should strive to be. I think they have very similar builds, very similar play styles. And you make a good point that Fox just does what Zach Jones is trying to do at a superstar level. So if there is anybody to model his game after, it will be Fox. Now, do I want them both in the same line? Probably not. I just think Jones is way too raw, and putting him with Fox, obviously Fox, you went out there with your top, against the top competition, because Fox is really, really good in his own zone. Whereas for me, Fox knows how to use his size a little bit better. Despite being 5'11", he still carries himself very well and wins those puck battles and clears the net front. Whereas when Zach Jones came up, I felt like he was constantly getting beat net front. At least early on, he obviously started to get a little bit better with it as he played in the NHL a little bit longer. Obviously, he didn't get a full season in. But I feel like he doesn't possess the same qualities that Fox does. So to put two small guys like that on the first pairing line where they're going up against the Crosbys and the Ovechkins and the Jack Hugheses of the league, that would be a little concerning for me. For me, I'm looking big time. Obviously, we mentioned Miller. I think that Chad Ruhwedel could slot in very well, just because he is that shutdown guy. I mention it all the time. He's very, very good in his own zone. He also is small, but he knows how to use it. 5'11", 192. But he plays it very well. He's always been a very reliable defenseman, no matter where he's been. So he's definitely a candidate for me as well. Obviously, they're looking for a guy who shoots left. Unfortunately, a lot of these candidates are going to be right-handed shots, which is why I want to mention another one. You mentioned it before. I know Tony would be happy. Victor Mancini, I think he's looked very good in the preseason. I wouldn't be opposed to giving him a shot. Connor Mackey could come up. He changed the season last year with his fight. It was the Cadillac turning point of the season, or the Honda, whatever the hell they call it on MSG. And even Brendan Scanlon, they have a lot of left-handed defensemen if you're looking for that left-handed shot.
I will say earlier this afternoon, Scanlon got sent down to Hartford.
Yeah, but they can always pull him back up.
That's true, but I feel like if they were going to start the season with them,
you're right. That's very true.
Who knows?
I don't know. There's a whole lot of things they could do because obviously, like I mentioned, Mackey and Scanlon have NHL time. Matthew Robertson is another left-handed shot who could potentially, get the call if they don't like what they're seeing early on in the season in the first few games. There's just so many different people who could really do it. Obviously, we have an idea of what the outcome is going to be just because of how they're talking about Miller and Fox being together. But I mean, it's really anybody's job. You just got to continue to fight for it in these last few preseason games here. But if I had to put my money on it would probably be Miller. But
yeah, you're right. If we're putting money on it, it's Miller. If we're looking for a sleeper pick, it's Zach Jones. You make some good points about some of the other guys like Mancini. You got Ruhwedel. Even a guy like Scanlon can get called up at any point. But I don't even think it's worth it to even further the discussion on like those three. Like you made good points. I won't even rebuttal it. I feel like we have our top two candidates, and then after that, you're kind of just like really putting up like a plus 50,000 parlay to hit. But to me, it's Keandre Miller. It's the obvious choice. It's the most realistic one, and I think it would create the best outcome. Zach Jones has its potential upsides, but honestly might be too big a risk too early on in his career to be given that big of an opportunity. But I'm curious to know how everyone else feels. To us, it's a pretty cut and dry solution. I'm also just now realizing 13 minutes into this episode, it says that you're Will, but you're Colin.
Oh, I did not realize.
I didn't realize it either. But anyways, that wraps up our discussion on who should play with Adam Fox. To us, the answer is Keandre Miller. But we're very excited for Ryan Lindgren to make a bounce back from this early injury and have a phenomenal 2024-25 season. If you guys agreed with us, if you disagreed with us, whatever option it is, leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. We love to hear your opinions. If you want to see more, ignore my microwave. Be sure to like, subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss a notification, and be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers. Have a good one. And
let's go
Rangers.